Welcome, Mr. Dr. Welch. We only have two people on so far. Did I start this? Hello, sir. We're just gonna wait until a few people come on.
Am I with you online?
Yes, you are. We're just gonna wait until a few people get on here. Usually we advertise for 8 o'clock. So we're just gonna wait and see, get a few people to get on.
Oh,
And I'm simulcasting. I'm also broadcasting this on Facebook, so the people on Facebook can also participate.
okay, beautiful. So did you advertise for 7 o'clock
Yeah,
Jamaican time?
yeah,
Ah,
7 o'clock Jamaican time.
I see. I
Yeah.
see.
So everybody, will slowly get people in once they get notification that we're live.
Okay.
And so yeah, Jamaicans take a minute to before they show up. Yeah.
What is interesting is that as Jamaicans interact with the rest of the world, we adopt to that. And I'm wondering why it is that we don't do the same thing here.
No, they'll show up, and the key is this because we can record it, then we can post it afterwards. Even if we only have a few people, we can post it afterwards because that's where we get a lot of the views is after we post it.
Okay, I understand. I'll follow your lead, sir.
We usually average around 60 to 100 people, and on Facebook we average maybe 200, 300 people. So we'll start shortly once we get the number up here. So how are you doing?
I'm
Are you
doing.
in your office?
Pardon?
Are you in your office?
One of the several offices I have.
Okay. Because I noticed you're in uniform, so I just I thought today may have been a day off or something, but obviously you're a man of always on duty.
It makes life easier if you don on the uniform. It saves you answering a question, who are you? So,
Okay, got it. Oh, fully understand.
and in the context of what's happening now across the world with law
Yes.
enforcement officers, one of the first, well, sorry to be using law enforcement terms, but that's all I know. The use of force policy.
Yeah.
So your uniform is your first uh, force, so that you see the uniform and you think twice whether or not you're going to execute the action you intended.
Okay.
So just by the presence alone, we're hoping that persons will fall in line. If they don't, then we escalate that use of force to a command, police, stop. And if they don't, then we escalate it up and up and up. Sometimes people don't hear about it until we use lethal or deadly force. But it doesn't mean that we just go all the way to the end of that continuum. We usually go through the routines, but it goes very fast.
Okay. Got it. Okay, so let's get this going here. First question I have is what's your background and how long you've been active in the force?
Thank you for asking. I have to tell you, first of all, that I'm from St. Elizabeth. And those who are watching will appreciate the fact that we have some connections. I left home when I was 17 years and a half and
Yeah.
went straight into the police service. except for the time I left to study. I've been a policeman all my life, and that has been the last 40 years. And I want to again repeat, let's minus the years I went to study. But other than that, this is my job.
What did you study?
Theology.
Okay.
And then went on to philosophy. I hold a doctorate in philosophy, but my major is in theology and Christian education.
Okay. So hence you being a bishop.
Yes, sir.
And so do you have a church that like it's your church, or you're a bishop at some other congregation? Like,
I'm going to answer in the context that you ask if I have a church. Yes, I pastor a congregation.
okay.
And I have done pastoral work for the last 20 years. And I've
Mhm.
held several church positions. But at the moment, I do pastor a small congregation in the inner city of Kingston 13. And that is the joy of my life.
Got it. And what's your current position? Not that they don't know, but just for official to let people know officially from you. What is your current position in the force?
You need a long sheet of paper to write it down. It's not a reflection of.
No, if you get a short version, that will work.
It's not a reflection of importance. It's just a job title. So I'm the Assistant Commissioner of Police in charge of strategic operations at the portfolio level, and my most recent engagement is that I am the liaison officer, the JCF liaison officer for MICA, which is Ministry of Long Big Word, having to do with Predial Larceny. So I go to bed thinking about how to prevent Predial Larceny, and I dream about it, and I wake up with it on my mind.
Okay. Let's all, since you went there, let's dig into this now. So you're the point person for Predial Larceny in the JCF, correct?
That is correct, sir.
And you head the unit, the division, I think they call it the unit, right? The Predial Larceny unit.
Okay, so a sergeant heads the unit.
Okay.
Sergeant Bruce Williams. So he is the person that will execute all the strategies that we have created. I am more at the strategic level, but being a policeman at heart, I do get on the ground and get involved in some of the tactical things too. Um, so the person who people would normally relate to is Sergeant Williams, but
Okay.
I quite often get involved.
Okay. But you're still in a position to answer some of these questions that we'll have tonight, right?
I hope
Right.
I'm able to answer your questions. If I'm not, I'll go and do the research and get back to you.
Okay. The number one question I would ask is, what are the resources that are being put in place for this new initiative? And second, and well, first off, what are the new initiatives? If you can give us an outline of what the new initiative entails and what are the resources that are putting forth
Okay,
to
thank
help.
you for asking that question. That gives me an opportunity to say that Predial Larceny is not a new challenge to the JCF. I take the opportunity to bring greetings from Deputy Commissioner Blake, who is the person who heads the portfolio. He's also from St. Elizabeth, and he understands the farmer's language and vocabulary. He visited Millbank a few months ago and called me from there and said he found a register that's in place from 1958. And one entry in there was someone came to the station and reported that someone cut their banana. And of course, that's part of Predial Larceny. I said that because we've been having this as a challenge from way back when. I don't want to discredit the efforts of all those who have put energy into this initiative ever since. What I want to say is that since 2015, the JCF formed a unit that is concentrated specifically on anti-Predial Larceny efforts. That is to say, as someone goes to a station to report an incident of Predial Larceny, they can be assured that at the high command level, all the way down to the station level, we have persons who are specifically engaged in attending to these reports. So it's not a new initiative, a new unit, but it's a unit that has come in for special focus since 2015. Every year we look at what we do and see how best we can improve on that. So in 2018, we took a strategic decision to what we call decentralize this unit. Because when we started the concentrated effort in 2015, we had one unit based at Jamaica that would be the energy of the initiative across the island, so that they would go to the place where we have problems and pull local police resources and respond. We found out that although that reaped tremendous results, it was not sustainable that we should have one unit doing that. So in 2018, what we did was to create a similar unit at all our police divisions. I'm not insulting anyone, but I'd like to just break down what's a police division. A police division is what the layman would consider a parish: St. Mary, Portland, St. Anne, and so forth, and St. Thomas. When you get into Kingston, it becomes, correction, the corporate area, it becomes a little more disjointed, for the want of a better word, in that we sectionize Kingston. And so out of the 14 parishes, we have 19 divisions. Okay. Now, for this new initiative, we have created a unit in each division to specifically respond to the threat, the emerging threat of Predial Larceny. What are the primary areas that we're looking at? One is traceability. We are pushing a lot of resources into figuring out how does the end user come in possession of items of agricultural produce, whether or not it be meat or ground provision.
Yeah, are we talking about butchers or consumers?
We are talking about everybody.
Okay.
The butchers are probably the middlemen, but
yeah.
So a restaurant probably would be a consumer for the purpose of our efforts. So a restaurant that's going to buy 10, 20, 40, 50 pounds of goat meat, we would like them to respectfully share with us the source of that meat. And we feel, as part of our efforts, that we should trace that back to the source, so that you'll tell us if you got it from a butcher, if you got it from a wholesaler, whoever. And we will handpick those who we want to backpedal on to see what's the real source. So that's traceability in a nutshell. Another area that we're looking at is public education. We find that Predial Larceny is not as well read or known as it should be. And so even the victims of Predial Larceny do not know much about the support that we can give and about the attendant factors and the things that they can do to mitigate the losses. Those are two of the primary areas. Deputy Commissioner Blake would like me to mention the whole matter of investigation. That is
Okay.
to say, when I went to the police training school back in 1979, I was told if someone were to report the case of a stolen bunch of banana, one of the things that we would do is, if we were to come upon a suspect with a bunch of banana, is to recover the stem from that banana, take it back to the tree, and match it against that part that's cut off. It sounds parochial, but that's exactly what we want to do today. We want to escalate our investigations to the point where we are able to scientifically match exhibit and evidence and so forth. So we're bringing in DNA, we're bringing in all the resources that we have with our anti-gang legislation, we're bringing in fingerprints, all that we have in the law enforcement toolbox, we are bringing to bear on our investigation of Predial Larceny incidents.
So per division, let's say I'm in St. Mary. So let's say St. Mary. How many officers are assigned to the Predial Larceny unit in St. Mary?
Okay, so a unit, usually, when we speak of the unit, we speak of a collection of anywhere between 5 to 7 persons. That forms a unit. Please understand that we're starting with units, but our hope and our objective is to have every single police officer educated to the point that they can properly prosecute, well, first appreciate and then successfully prosecute a case of Predial Larceny by preparation of case file, and be able to present that evidence. It is a little way off, but that's where we're starting. So the 19 divisions, we have 7 that are up and running now with units. It doesn't necessarily mean that every single incident of Predial Larceny will be handled by the unit, but what it does mean is that the unit will coordinate resources to ensure that we give support to every single officer who has a case file preparing in respect of a case of Predial Larceny.
Got it.
One of the things I would like to add is, if you see a police unit, it will tell you what parish it's from and what focus it is for in that particular parish. Now you're going to see, so you'll see a police vehicle that says tourism or criminal investigation or community safety. You will now see police vehicles that say Predial Larceny unit.
Okay.
Those are the vehicles that are specifically dedicated to those efforts.
Okay, understood. So let's do an example here. For example, that big goat theft situation in Clarendon. Let's say you those guys are found guilty. The perpetrators were captured, found guilty. What is the penalty?
Okay, those penalties are already legislated. Those are all written. It is not NOT, the police remit to award penalties for offenses. I do not know offhand what those penalties are. That is to say, I can't tell you now. I would have to research it. It doesn't take much either. One thing I will tell you, when I come back to you, I will join with you in saying that these penalties are woefully inadequate.
Thank you. Much appreciated to hear you say that.
And I be honest with you, friend, that it is just heartbreaking, not only to the victims of crime, but to law enforcement efforts, that when you hear the penalties that are awarded. And that is why Minister Hutchinson last week in the town hall meeting said that legislation, the review of the legislation is part and parcel of this. And retired Commissioner Owen Ellington sent us a beautiful table of recommendations that we can't make public, but will be part of the conversation going forward as to how we can align these new penalties, stiffer penalties, with these offenses.
Yeah, as a community, as a small ruminants community, it's one of those discussions that we've been having on various forums where we're like, there's the penalty for these guys it's not a deterrence. You know, you can steal a goat that's worth $120,000 and you only spend, a month, 6 months in jail or pay a small fine. But it doesn't compare to $150,000 and the loss plus what that animal could produce for that farmer.
That is correct. And
Yeah.
I would like to give this community the opportunity to hear me say, with all honesty of heart, that we are in support of those views. You have the support of the Honorable Minister, and as far as I know, you have the support of the Ministry of Justice. It has taken a little time to get there. I promise faithfully that I will share with you, once I put my hand on it, where the thoughts are, what are the considerations. And in addition to that, it might warm your heart to hear me say, part of that is the whole matter of restitution, so that the law as it is now addresses itself to the penalty for the crime, but not for restitution to the victim.
Yes.
The revised legislation will make accommodation for this, so that hand in hand will be the penalty and will be an avenue for restitution to the victim.
Yeah, and I think, as you mentioned earlier about traceability, I think, restaurants and butchers and those people, they need to be accountable when they're found with stolen property. It's like whether it's a restaurant with a whole basket full of lettuce or whatever it is, if they can't prove that they were bought legitimately, they should pay a price also.
And may I tell you, friend, that the law makes provision for that. Any individual in a public place with any items of value has an obligation to account for that possession. Well, and I'm not just talking Predial Larceny, whatever. Without a complainant, then our default mode is unlawful possession of property, which carries a lower fine than it would be a case of Predial Larceny. And that is why we are encouraging farmers, property owners, make a report, get a receipt, because you will find that as we prefer charges against suspects, we'll have to prepare a kind of airtight case, or we go for a charge that we think we can prove. Police officers are not into this for proving people guilty. We prepare the case file, we present it to the court, and the court has that right to do so. But we put our best foot forward, and for each suspect, we want to put as good a case against that person. Usually, the strongest evidence is a complainant's statement, a statement from the property owner. So we're suggesting that our farmers, our property owners should give that kind of cooperation.
So is there an easy way for farmers to make large complaints or report suspicion on their property? Is there like a hotline that they can call, or it's just straight 119?
Okay, the slowest way to get action is to call an assistant commissioner, because we are way up top, and people would say, I would prefer to call the assistant commissioner. I will give you my number. I will give you an office number, but more than all, I want to give you the number of the local police station. What you might want to do is report that crime to one of the 180 police stations across Jamaica. Traditionally, we say to you, report the crime to your nearest police, your local police. But we are accommodative, and we're saying, report the crime to any police. As long as you give us the address and particulars, we will escalate it. It is easier if you report it to the police station nearest to where the offense is, because that's where we're going to refer. Report it to the police, get a CR10, a receipt with your name, the date that you reported, and so forth. That's what I suggest that you send to us, either at Strategic Operations, or send it to me, or send it to Sergeant Bruce. That way, we will follow up. We're not going to take over the investigation, but we will follow up. And then what we are able to do at that level is to provide coordination. You mentioned earlier of that case out in Clarendon, and
Yes.
I'm not able to divulge all there is about it, but animals.
Yeah. Can you?
I
I
called
think
her
we're
for two.
losing you a bit there.
I called her one as the person with responsibility. Let me see what.
I think we're having some Wi-Fi issues. Are you still there? Dr. Welch? I think we're having some Wi-Fi issues. Your feed is just frozen there. Your video is frozen. Oh no, you're clear.
Are we back together?
So can you repeat? Yeah, can you repeat the statement on the Clarendon incident?
Okay, so a good case. There are some lessons we can learn from the Clarendon incident, and understand. I'm just mentioning this because it's a recent incident. It's an incident. Am I back with you?
Yes, we can hear you. Video is frozen, but we can hear you. I assume somebody's calling or something. Yeah.
Please forgive me if we're getting interruptions from my end. So the Clarendon incident, because it's recent and because it offers opportunity for conversation.
See with us, guys. He's the assistant commissioner, so I'm sure his phone's ringing off the hook.
All right, let me tell you, I'll stay with you out
Yeah.
until tomorrow morning to get this point across. Don't worry, I'm going to be here, man. Okay, so I mentioned in the class an opportunity for conversations at different levels.
Yeah.
Firstly, I want to let the community know that I call the owner of the missing animals to my support, both from the police strategic level and also as a farmer, both. Um, I'm not able to give all the details of the story, but what I share is that she lost 50 animals, 50, 50.
Wow.
It could have been worse. They took 67, but they left 17 a mile down the road.
Okay.
Uh, this is just so unfortunate. Now,
Yeah.
because it came to our attention, so the Hayes police are investigating. They are the persons on the ground collecting statements and so forth. But let me assure you, I have spoken with the senior superintendent in charge of the parish of Clarendon, and he is personally involved. And then from our level, we got the St. Elizabeth team involved, and we got both St. Catherine North and South teams involved. So we have the Predial Larceny units in St. Elizabeth, in St. Catherine South, St. Catherine North, and St. Elizabeth. They are involved. So it's like an outer cordon. And then the Hayes police, the SSP, they're delving into that. Then, according to the report, there were 4 men, and they had guns. It brings our anti-gang task force involved into that. So this case of Predial Larceny is getting tremendous support from all police units and formations across the island. It is on our police blotters, and we have strong leads, and we are following those. We are hoping that this is going to be one of those stories that will end well, and our primary objective is to recover the animals and return them to the rightful owner. We hope we can do that in short time.
Well, that would be amazing. Usually in cases like these, it's the animals just vanish. And in our community, it's devastating because there's never any restitution or no recovery of anything. And this number of animals is a big hit. I'm sure you understand what effect that has on a small business owner, a small farmer, for 99% of their stock to be taken.
Yes,
So,
sir. Yes, sir. I do. I cannot begin to imagine the pain she's feeling. All 67 were taken. It is through the help of the community, and I want to publicly thank the Hayes community and all those precious citizens who responded and partnered with the police in recovering those 17. This just resembles a case over in St. Catherine South last week where they took 50 and headed out. Now, again, the citizen did the right thing. He went straight to the police. 4 in the morning, he went. And the police did the right thing in responding. They picked up a trail and they recovered 39 of the 50. I wish all the cases were that easy. It tells us something, though, that these perpetrators probably move out of the immediate vicinity on foot and then probably load the animals into vehicles and traverse the public highways and so forth. That is why we are educating our police officers who conduct vehicular checkpoints not just to be looking out for persons who are speeding, persons who refuse to relicense their vehicle, but we're going to be looking out for persons who are transporting agricultural produce or animals. I know it is going to be inconvenient for some persons. But please, I'm making an appeal to understand we only mean well. If you are on the public thoroughfare with a goat in your vehicle, we are expecting you to account. If you sell a goat to someone, we're expecting you to give them proper documentation. If you sell a goat to someone or you sell agricultural produce, expect a call from the police. Because if we were to intercept that person and we get your particulars, we are going to call. And if we have reasons, we are going to visit. We're not thinking you're criminals. We're just trying to get persons to comply with the protocols that have been established. It is full time that we give attention to this scourge and this emerging trend. People ask me, why is it that we have an assistant commissioner pushing this effort? And I'll answer you. It is because these small crimes that we consider small crimes, they morph themselves into larger crimes. When you deprive a hardworking person of their livelihood and they go into a grief cycle, part of that is anger. And they want to express that anger in some ways that's not lawful. And we want to help to curtail that and to eventually reduce the large murder figures and the other major crimes that emerge out of simple things like Predial Larceny.
Yeah, I agree. And are you familiar with the term, the compound effect?
Yes, sir. I am, and I preach that. It
Yeah,
just
so all
applies,
these
applies.
small farms getting affected across the country,
Yes.
the compound effect. And now it's no longer a little small problem. It's a major problem that's affecting hundreds of small farmers, which in turn affects communities, which in turn affects the economy and affects the GDP of the
You
country.
you are absolutely correct, sir. Part of law enforcement is inconvenience. When we sit to strategize these things, quite often we overlook little things such as, what if someone is moving their own animals from, St. Mary to Kingston? If you are a goat farmer in St. Mary, we are suggesting that you register with RADA. That's a simple point. I am not making an excuse for not registering, but what if you're not registered and you're going to move your animals? The night before, the day before, go over to the police station. It might not be advisable to go over there when you are moving out, but let's say give the police some advance notice. I'm John Brown, I'm a goat farmer. Sorry, I am not registered with RADA, but I'm moving 5 animals into Kingston tomorrow evening. I'm driving this blue Nissan pickup, blah, 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 blah. I am the owner of the animals. It gives the police an opportunity to verify your story, and they'll make a note on a paper somewhere or in a book to say John Brown is moving, and if needs be, call this number. We are here to facilitate. We are here to help. If it is that you don't do that and we find you, here's what we're going to do. We're going to hold you with your vehicle and the animals until we can prove otherwise. It will take 12 hours, but when we prove in your favor, we're going to tell you, sorry for the inconvenience, you may go. We don't want that to happen. Coordinate with your local police and let's find ways and means of making life easier for all persons concerned.
Yeah, I agree. The good has to suffer for the bad, and people got to just cooperate with law enforcement and adhere to the rules. So when we really need the help is there. I agree with that.
Uh,
Uh,
One other thing that we're doing, and this is a support element for the victims of Predial Larceny, we will keep you updated in terms of the progression through the course. Progression through the course. Sometimes what happens is people become frustrated. Um, you are hearing is uh, some other technical or legal, you don't understand and you become frustrated. We would like support to you in breaking down what this is over. I am not a criminal. Why are you bounding me over? All the judges saying, thank you for coming today. We are going to meet again on the 5th of June. We are expecting you to come back on the 5th of June. That's what it means by bounding you over. And you feel like a victim. And then you come to court at 10. Everybody comes to court at 10. And people don't understand that. When we say, come back here next week, Tuesday at 10 o'clock, and you sit and you're expecting your name to be called or your case to be called, the next one, next one, next one. And then you hear the court sergeant says, this court stands adjourned until this afternoon. Go to, and you come back at 2. And you don't know. That's a day. And you just tell, I'm coming back next week. What we want to do is to be able to help you to understand that and give you support through that process. And by the way, we do that for major cases. So why not do it for victims of Predial Larceny?
yeah, any help that the farmer can get, because losing a whole day for a farmer is it's serious. A lot of farmers don't have that kind of time. Maybe they're working by themselves. Maybe they don't have help, and if they can't just take the whole day off when they got livestock that they got to attend to. So
Absolutely.
any help would help. So what advice would you give to small farmers, small livestock farmers? What steps they can take to protect their product or protect their livestock, protect their products, their field, whether it's animals or produce?
Okay. So let's start with, and it's an enforcement term, but you'll understand that the item of interest is what we are protecting. It's your pen, it's your wallet, it's your car key. But more than all, I'd like to suggest that we take the same approach that ladies take towards their handbags. They just don't leave it out of their sight. They don't allow anyone to get close to it. Treat your property that way. Treat it just like that. Your responsibility is to secure your property. Let me take the opportunity to clarify something for persons. When you speak about law enforcement and speak about policing, please add to that same sentence public spaces. And if the teachers who are listening, they're going to tell me you can't have spaces. But in police work, we do. So we work in public spaces. I need to have justification to come on your farm. I will drive to the gate and ask you permission if I can come in. And you say, officer, what purpose are you on today? I said, I'm patrolling the area and I'm just making a courtesy stop, and you say, I'm fine, be on your merry way. I can't command you to open the gate and have me come in for a courtesy visit. That's not allowable. The same is true, sir, for your goat establishment, your cows, your potato, and that's your responsibility. My job is to provide you with a safe, as you do your business of rearing goats and cows and animals and whatever, permit us to make courtesy calls on you. We're not asking for a drink of water. We're not asking for anything. We're just saying, may I take a look at the way you do your goats, your sheep, your cows, your whatever, so that out of our knowledge and experience, we might want to suggest to you changing that lock. That's a very common lock that everybody has a key. Or we might suggest to you putting the gate on the opposite side, whatever. Design conversation with you. We'll have a conversation with you as to how you operate. What is it that you do? In the instant case in Clarendon, a lone man goes out at a certain time of the day to feed these animals with 6 to 7 goats.
No, we understand. We understand. We know the phone rings. Just be patient, folks. Yeah.
Yeah, one man, 6 to 7 goats in a deserted area is a recipe, is an invitation for a crime situation. So we've come in and through able to make some recommendations. Now, we are doing this free of cost. We're doing it for all the vital government installations that are involved in agriculture, and we'd like to do this for our farmers. I'd love to visit everyone. I can't, and that is why we have other police personnel who are highly trained and are able to give you a step-by-step as to how you can improve that. Now, when it comes to the public spaces now, we are intercepting people. We are, and it's hard for people to understand, but when I'm saying it, we're targeting some vehicles, some special kinds of vehicles. Yes, we are going to target you. If you are transporting agricultural produce, just know that the same way we're looking out for illegal public passenger vehicles, we're going to look out for you. We're going to pull you over, and we're going to ask you to justify your movements. If you're going across parishes, we want you to know that in Western Jamaica, there is an assistant commissioner of my rank who is in charge of the entire Western Jamaica. It is easy for him to coordinate policing activities from, let's say, Rio Bueno at the border in Trelawney, all the way to Hector's River in Portland. That's one assistant commissioner. So you can move from St. Mary through, from St. Anne through St. Mary to Portland on the authority of one man. That's one assistant commissioner. And the same is true for Western Jamaica. You can move on the authority of one person. So it's not that you have disjointed police forces. We have a coordinated effort that's happening. And on the strategic level, if we were to clear you for an activity, you have the entire Jamaica, because we are able to speak to all of the area commanders, and we have five assistant commissioners. So a conversation between ourselves and 5 other assistant commissioners my level, you're cleared. We're going to say it's okay for John Wilson to move from Kingston to Negril with his goats. And that's okay, because we have that level of coordination. And the same is true. If someone steals a goat somewhere and we were to get information on that, we can quickly disseminate that information right across the island. I'm suggesting that farmers form themselves into groups. One group that I want to encourage farmers to become part of is the Farmers Watch. It springs out of the Neighborhood Watch movement, which is 33 years old. We're saying, create a group, organize yourselves, invite the police in to be part of that conversation, and create a structured group for sharing of information, such as the platform you now have. We can share information, we can help one another to protect ourselves.
So is there an established Farmers Watch group? Or
yes, I'm pleased to tell you that when I was at Community Safety and Security probably 7 years ago, we started that. We have a Farmers Watch group, we have a Beach Watch group, we have a Neighborhood Watch group. And what a Farmers Watch group is simply a group putting together with a common interest. And in this case, it's farmers. And you'll say, these are our objectives, these are our activities. And the unique thing about Farmers Watch group is that you don't have to put on jacket and tie, and you don't have to go to the town hall for a meeting. We meet on people's farms with their permission. We localize this, and we make things happen for the benefit of all the members.
got it. So I have a question for you. That it's a debate that's been happening on various of our Facebook platforms and WhatsApp groups and stuff, because a lot of established farmers are looking at being a licensed firearm carrier to protect their property and their livestock. And there's various ideas of how much you can use that firearm to protect your property. What are the rules? What does the law says about protecting your property as a licensed firearm carrier? So I'm hoping that you can give us some clarification on when can a licensed firearm carrier discharge his weapon to protect himself or his property.
I would like to simplify the answer. You are going to hear the same thing from any police officer. Some of us might read it from a book, and some of us might simplify it the way I am doing it now for you.
We can't hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, repeat that.
A private citizen than does a police officer.
Okay, repeat that, because you repeat that, please.
Okay. The holder of a firearm license
Yes.
has no more right to the use of that weapon as deadly force than does a police officer. We are guided by the same set of principles. That said, let us start with a police officer. And several persons asked me whether or not I carry a weapon. And I often refer to the scripture that says, anything I put my hand to, I'm going to prosper. And we'll leave it at that. When we have a weapon, we're saying, the reason I have a weapon is that I'm protecting myself, first of all. But in addition to that, I'm sworn to protect members of the various publics that I serve. And for the teachers, yes, we do have publics. Now, we are given guidelines, use of force policy, which is grounded in law. When do you use the weapon? Since you are not police officers, let me be specific with you. Every application for the permission to carry a weapon is grounded in the statement for protection of life and property. I would like to apply for a firearm so that I can protect my life and my property. An investigation is done to determine whether or not your life is exposed to undue threat, and whether or not you have property that might attract criminals or attract evil-minded people to come in and get you or your property. If that is determined to be so, then you will be issued with a license to hold, to carry. You don't own a gun license, you hold one. It means there's a string attached to it and it can be withdrawn. Many years ago, that was in the remit of the police to grant the license. Of course, everybody knows now we have the firearm licensing authority. They are guided by the same set of principles. They will only issue a firearm holder's license, user's permit to someone whose life and property has a greater level of exposure. When you are in possession of that firearm and you face a threat, you must determine whether or not you're going to fight that threat or take flight. It is uncomfortable for me to watch the response of people when I say, if you have a firearm, you're the holder of a firearm license, and you face a threat, contemplate whether or not moving away from that threat isn't your best option. I say this to you as a law enforcement officer. If you can move away from that threat, please do. That's your first option. The second set of options I want you to contemplate, if you are going to stand your ground, how are you going to counter that threat? And let's use you, Brother Wilson, looking at you. With your muscles and stuff, friend, I expect you to win that fight against a 17-year-old with a broomstick. Yeah, he's coming at you, and he said, let me tell you something. I am going to beat you to a frazzle this morning, and I am going to take your